This conference will now be recorded.
Well, good morning, everyone. Once again, I'm Wayne Mitchell. I have the privilege of being with the Nacogdoches County Chamber of Commerce. We want to welcome everybody to the conference call this morning, and we're anxious to hear what Mr. Legate has to say about the oil and gas initiative. I want to remind you folks that this call, one, is being recorded, and two, members of the media have been invited to participate in the on the call, and we welcome them as well. Uh, I would like to take a minute and just say that we'll have some announcements at the end about some important events coming up, most notably the Chamber Days in Austin, which will be led very capably by Donna Finley and our Government Affairs Committee. And we're pretty excited about the agenda, which we're going to be distributing very, very soon. So, with that in mind, I'm going to introduce to you the chairperson of the Government Affairs Committee that will be leading our delegation to Austin on February 14th to the 15th for the purpose of introductions. Donna Finley. Good morning, Donna.
Good morning, Wayne. And today I am introducing a friend of mine that knows the roads and airways of Texas. He is a genuinely likable operative. He has over 15 years of statewide speaking engagements and has built a network of relationships that span the social and political spectrum. He joined G. Fox team in 2002 after years on the political campaign circuit. His hometown is Klein, Texas, and his alma mater is the University of Texas. He makes Austin his home with his family. I give you Luke Legate.
Thanks, Donna. I appreciate that kind introduction. Donna and I won't say we go way back, but we've been friends for quite a while when we've had some issues in Washington and some issues in Austin. And y'all are very blessed to have her running any committee there up there because she seems to know everybody and is calm, cool, and collected and gets things done. So you can pay me that $5 you owe me now after that introduction,
Thank
Donna.
you.
But
Thank you, Luke.
10 inflation. Yeah, it's great to be with you guys. Can everybody hear me okay? I'm in my home office fixing to go down to the state capitol. Today is an exciting day. Today is the first day of the legislative session, as you all probably know or maybe have seen the headlines. And the good news is, at the start of every session, you never know what's going to happen. You never know. There's always surprises. There's always drama. There's good times, bad times, you name it. The joke is, thank goodness they only meet every other year for 140 days. So, unlike other states that have full-time legislators, I think we're getting it right in Texas. And the first thing I'm going to tell you is why I think we are getting it right in Texas. If you saw yesterday, the comptroller just released the revenue estimate for the state of Texas. It is $188.2 billion, the largest we've ever had. That's terrific news. That means business is doing well. That means the oil and gas industry is doing well. Tech, manufacturing, you name it. Our economy is humming despite some serious challenges and headwinds from labor issues, supply chain issues, the effects of COVID, the Russian war, you name it. And the budget surplus that we now have is over $30 billion as well. So I also happen to do a little bit of work in that other state on the West Coast called California. And they are putting their legislature together this week as well. And they're coming in with a budget shortfall. So it's a tale of two states and how government and regulation can impact business and the economy, industries that we all rely on for our economy. The state of California, I'm not going to make this a bashing session about them, but they do have their challenges and they're experiencing some serious weather right now. And so I want to make sure we keep those people in mind as, we've seen a lot of weather this year affecting the country. But it really is a tale of two different philosophies. One that encourages business in the state of Texas, and one that, frankly, in California, I think deters business. Um, you wouldn't believe the amount of red tape and bureaucracy involved with simply trying to purchase an asset. I work with a company that has to get approval for every single thing that they purchase, um, whether it's a new acquisition. All of it has to go through a huge bureaucracy, and so God bless Texas is what I'm trying to say. And so we're getting things right. We can improve, but I really wanted just to kind of highlight and let you all know what that sort of the stage looks from and I'm going to talk specifically about the oil and gas industry, of course, but also want to kind of give you a perspective. 15 years ago, we were coming in with budget shortfalls. And the oil and gas industry took off in Texas. We've always had a healthy oil and gas industry. We've had our bumps and bruises, the 80s crash, etc. But the advances in technology that we've seen in our business is what has kept us afloat. Years ago when I spent a lot of time in West Texas in the Permian Basin, and prior to developing shale technology and horizontal drilling, hydraulic fracturing, and really perfecting those, a lot of people thought the Permian Basin would dry up. Today, the Permian Basin is the most prolific oil field in the world, surpassing Saudi Arabia. We have the technology, we have the free market, we have competition. The Permian Basin is our national security blanket, is what I like to call it. I do have some other good news, and this is something you may have not heard about, but about 4 or 5 months ago, through some agency executive orders type things, the EPA was going to place the Permian Basin in what they call non-attainment. I'm sure you probably have heard that in the metro areas of Dallas, Houston, etc. This was very short-sighted. This was based on some old data of what the air quality is in West Texas, and at one point would probably have curtailed production anywhere from 30 to 40%. Um, Quickly, the legislature, the governor, and trade associations and companies made the case to the EPA with hard data showing the reduction in emissions, showing the reduction in flaring of any sort of byproducts. And thankfully, the EPA has rescinded that order. So that is terrific news for West Texas, which, of course, is good news for all of Texas. Specifically, I always like to point out, and you guys are in a unique position, especially in East Texas. The Haynesville Shale is probably the best kept secret in the world in terms of natural gas production. We all talk about natural gas being produced in West Texas, moving via pipelines, etc. But if you follow this closely, like I do and others, the amount of investment in the Northwest Louisiana, East Texas, Haynesville Shale area is rivaling what's going on in the Permian Basin. And the simple reason for that is the global thirst for natural gas, which has also been exaggerated by the war in Russia, frankly. The pipeline capacity in East Texas that can move it down to the Gulf Coast for refining, exportation, liquefaction is growing vastly. You're seeing many of the midstream pipeline companies announcing new projects to expand existing pipelines, all of that, which is going to contribute to the local economies in East Texas, which is great news. It's also great news for our severance taxes as those continue to rise. I always like to remind people every time we take a molecule out of the ground, we are paying a severance tax, which goes into that rainy day fund, which I told you earlier, it was $13-14 billion. The legislature has been able to capitalize on that. And so that's been really good news. And so I always say to people, don't forget about East Texas. Don't forget about the Haynesville Shale. It is one of the most prolific natural gas fields and has been for decades. But with the implementation of new technologies that we've perfected in the Permian Basin, people are very, very optimistic about the long-term production of natural gas. in the United States, we produce about 29 billion cubic feet of natural gas every single day. That far exceeds our needs as a country. And so, like I alluded to earlier, we're seeing the growth in the international market. And what we're seeing now is billions of dollars of investment along the Texas Gulf Coast in LNG export facilities. These are massive manufacturing facilities that do take that natural gas in from East Texas, West Texas, and they basically, and I'm not an engineer or anything, obviously you know that from how I'm speaking, I hope. I know just enough to be dangerous, but they basically freeze natural gas 270 degrees below zero. Or shrinks it to 270 times smaller, and you're able to load that onto these mega tankers that can go anywhere in the world. And so we, as a country in the United States, specifically Texas, almost 30% of it is derived strictly from Texas, is leaving for ports in Europe, in Asia, in South America, even Australia. Recently, the United States, we surpassed Qatar right there in the heart of the Middle East as one of we now outproduce them on natural gas. It is cheaper for Europe to buy, I like to call Texas natural gas, and ship it to Europe than it is to get it from Qatar. That gives us that economic advantage. And so you might ask, well, why is that important to Texas? Well, if we can continue to produce record levels of natural gas much more safely, I would argue with much more environmental regulations than other parts of the world, that increases jobs, increases our taxes, and it increases our security, frankly. It's no secret that Russia cutting off pipeline access to Europeans in the winter is a weapon of war. We've seen it. I've seen nations, Poland signed a deal even before the Russian invasion of Ukraine of buying a large supply of their natural gas from a facility in Port Arthur, Texas. So it's truly a global commodity that Texas is just in a great position. There is currently probably 3 to 4 full operations in the Houston, Beaumont area, including also Lake Charles over in Louisiana. And then you move down to the coast, you've got Corpus Christi with Cheniere Energy is also exporting as well. And then the real exciting news is down in the Rio Grande Valley in Port of Brownsville. There's potentially probably 2 more LNG facilities that are going to be coming online. So that is really a good long-term investment. When people say, and we hear this rhetoric, and you may hear it in the news and some of the media of we need to end fossil fuels. Well, that's simply not going to be possible in the near future. Yes, we still should continue to invest in all forms of energy. That's always prudent. We are seeing growth in wind, solar, hydro, everything down the as old President Bush used to say, nuclear. We need all of that energy to be developed. And frankly, we have to have security in this. We do not want to be in a position, frankly, where we have to ask foreign governments to supply oil. We are doing that here at home. The good news, and I mentioned some of these challenges, and Wayne, I know we're on a tight schedule, and so I'll wrap up because I'll want to answer some questions as well. But what we're seeing now is even with all of these challenges, even with some of the rhetoric that's out there, some of the regulatory issues, some of the pipeline capacities and things, the Texas oil and gas industry is really responding to these and delivering. And so we feel like we are in a good position to continue to deliver that for Texas and the world and the nation. We want to do that responsibly. That's why we encourage science-based regulations. We work very closely with the Railroad Commission and and the EPA and the TCEQ. I always argue that I've been to other parts of the world, and they do not put in the same environmental safeguards that we do in this country, and we should be proud of how we operate. We should always strive to do better and better on that front, and we are. We continue to do that. The other thing is always of interest is ERCOT. not specifically related strictly to oil, but the oil and gas industry with natural gas did respond. The winter storm of 2021 was catastrophic. It was the perfect storm, obviously, of everything, roads to infrastructure. And the legislature really took a hard look at what needed to be done, have some accountability, have some backup, some redundancy. We saw that the industry has weatherized a lot of our facilities. The other critical component of this was registering as each facility is now in a sort of database of critical infrastructure, so that power can be moved to certain places to ensure that power can be generated on the whole. We've seen, and we're sharing those plans with the state operations centers and with the regulatory bodies. We saw this last winter snap. We delivered on that. There were some issues in the Dallas area related to one company, but overall, we really responded, and there's still more work to be done. We all know it. Texas is growing. We surpassed 30 million people, and as they keep coming, they're not bringing their water, they're not bringing their electricity and roads with them. So I think this legislative session, there'll be a real emphasis, and I think everybody keeps saying it, infrastructure, infrastructure, infrastructure. And so I think we're in a good position to really have some of that money invested. What the legislature does with all of that budget surplus is, of course, up to them. And just to give you all a preview of what you might hear when you come to Austin, and I'd love to join y'all on Valentine's Day. I see y'all are coming. Probably about half of that is going to be in some form of property tax relief. I think that's been sort of the consensus. I'll let them make the sausage over there in the Capitol. We have the honor of producing the tax dollars, and then those legislators get to figure out how to spend it just the right way. And they are very prudent with Texas taxpayer money. They know it belongs to Texans. It doesn't belong to the government. And again, that's another pride thing of Texas. Other issues that may come up from y'all's perspective, which I think you should pay attention to, is some sort of economic development replacement for the Chapter 313 that expired at the end of the year. There were some critics. There were some issues with transparency and some local school districts, etc. I think everyone recognized that something did need to be addressed, and there are many plans and ideas out there that are going to be fleshed out over the coming months about how to put together an economic development package that is very competitive, is very transparent as well. Economic incentives are especially important for rural Texas. I mean, the big headlines get, the $1 billion facilities and some of the metro areas get all the hype in the news. But if you talk to any rural or smaller areas of Texas, they're critical economic tools. I mean, if you're in Panola County or Coke County in West Texas, or, in the Panhandle, and you're able to attract 200 jobs and $50-60 million of investment from a company that may have chosen Oklahoma or Louisiana, that's vitally important. So we've got to find a way, and we support anything that will continue to do that. And I'm pretty confident the Speaker of the House has said that he wants to make that a priority. The governor obviously is very supportive of that, being a champion of the Texas economy. And so we'll see that. Those are sort of the big issues. As far as other issues in the session, I've always joked, and you probably heard some people say this, sessions that have a lot of money are a lot more difficult when there's not a lot of money, because everybody is trying to say, well, we have money, let's do this. And so you really have to make your case. And so I think that's important for you all when you're coming to Austin, and y'all have great leadership and, with your local representatives. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I know we're coming up to 10:25, and so Wayne, I wanted to pause there just for a second and see if there might be any questions or suggestions or insults too. Feel free.
Luke, I've got a couple of questions, and I'm sure the participants do as well. One would be, we talk about the surplus, the 30 billion plus. I asked local representatives under what circumstance they could see that we'd be spending that. Since I've been here, we went through two major disasters, Harvey and the ice storm, which you referenced. And there doesn't seem to be much of an appetite to ever dip into that. How could you see
It's
that ever being used?
Yeah, it's it is tricky. Some years, as we all know, as we plan family budgets, business budgets, some years are better than others. There's a lot of people in the legislature remember when we were 20 billion in the hole in the early 2000s. They have used some of those. If you recall, maybe 4, 5, 6 years ago, some of the props, Prop 1, Prop 3 for water infrastructure, one was another road infrastructure. That was based on monies allocated from the rainy day fund that they put in place and sort of used as a launching point for those initiatives. So we may see some additional propositions on it using some of that rainy day fund onto um, infrastructure, possible ballot initiative type things. Constitutionally, there are some requirements. They have to meet some thresholds to spend that money. In fact, they've put in spending caps, so future legislation sessions would not just empty the account. So those have to be agreed upon. So I think you will see some allocations of that. I think there is an appetite to do that. But it's, the philosophy in Texas is always let's keep saving for a rainy day and use it very wisely. And I think that's led to our success.
Great, thank you. My last question is, being formerly from the state of Maine and driving around East Texas, I frequently see uh, wellheads and pumps. And I often ask the question, how rich in oil are we in East Texas in terms of what we have underneath the ground?
That's a good geology question. I would say that I'll give you and I'll make this, I'm not trying to make it not about East Texas, but West Texas is a great example. For years, we did traditional horizontal drilling. Vertical, just simply putting a straw on the ground, if you will, and hoping you hit a pocket of oil. Today, we know where the oil is. You don't hear the term dry hole very often. There are multiple layers of strata in the Permian Basin, as there is in East Texas, not as prolific, but with 3D mapping, GIS, literally seeing the virtual underneath at 7, 8, 10,000 feet, there are still vast reserves of oil. The question is always, is it economical? Is it economical to go and invest $5 million in a new area or field or strata or layer in an East Texas formation? And the answer is yes. I mean, technology continues to improve. Just like every other business, we do more with less than ever. Like any other business, I mean, manufacturing used to have hundreds and hundreds of people building cars. Now you have a handful operating computers. Our industry is no different. The command centers of our drilling operations are super high tech. So the technology is there. The East Texas, I can tell you this, the East Texas oil fields will always be vital to the production in this state.
Well, that's music to our ears here in East Texas, and
Especially your natural gas reserves. I'm telling you, I would be more excited about the natural gas reserves than the oil, because the growth in natural gas is going to continue for decades.
well, that's great to hear. Questions from our panelists here? Well, it looks like
Well, I
Luke,
hope that was helpful, and I hope I didn't talk too fast. But
not at
Donna
all.
and Wayne, I would love to, and others, I'd love to see y'all when y'all come down to Austin. I think I've attended those a few times. You guys are always pretty fun, so I always like to much more fun
Yes,
than those
come
West.
join us again. Come join us again. We look forward to seeing you.
Absolutely, love to.
Donna, any final comments to Luke? And Luke, you're welcome to stay on the call and hear from the
I will.
other.
I want to hear some updates about Stephen F. and other things going
Great.
on.
Donna,
I
any
just
final
want
comments?
Just want to say thanks for what you do for the state, Luke. There's always the people in the background that are really making a lot of things happen, and you're one of those people. So
Well, you're too kind. Thank you, you as well, and you guys do great work. So I'm happy to be a part of anything that you in your success. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Luke. And with that in mind, we'll continue with our calls. First of all, is there a representative from Stephen F. Austin that would like to speak about what's going on over there? The students are back tomorrow, I'm told. So, do we have somebody on the call? Uh, Apparently not, but I do see we're pleased to have with us Sherry Cheney Morgan with Visit Nacogdoches. Good morning, Sherry.
Good morning. Um, and Happy New Year and all of that. Hope everybody enjoyed their holidays. And I myself am still fumbling through that abyss between Christmas and New Year's. I'm not sure what day it is, what year it is, um, things of that nature. But things are moving ahead with Visit Nacogdoches. We have had a very robust showing of visitors throughout the holiday season, and a lot of our friends from California, and a lot of Canadians, and we love them all. So, um, but our numbers are very high, and we are happy for that. Tonight, I'll be presenting a workshop item at City Council about special events. About 2 years ago, the CVB took on special events permitting, and Joanna, that fell under her wheelhouse, and since her departure, I've taken on an administrative role of accepting the paperwork and orchestrating things, and we've been fine tuning the process along the way with myself and Brian Bray and Carrie Walker and Steve Bartlett and Michael Brown, all the different departments that it takes to pull off events. Very happy to say that we have recovered. We are in full recovery mode from the pandemic as far as events go, and our events are back and stronger than pre-pandemic any. So now is a great organic time to really look at those processes that served us well in the past and see if it's time to tweak and update and sort of make them as intentional and useful to all parties concerned, to the city, to the event host, to the event attendees. And so that's part of the workshop item tonight to City Council to sort of look at. We're starting with the process. And then we are looking for council direction to see how they want to move forward. Do we want to institute a fee structure for special events permitting? Do we want to look more at our race routes? Is it really serving our community well to have basically concierge race routes, parade routes, or would we be better served as a community to have some predetermined race and parade routes that the event host get to choose from? Just trying to streamline things, especially now as we recognize the inflation that's going on around us. The cost of doing business is just higher across the board. So we are looking to streamline the process and to make it as cost effective and efficient as possible. So if that interests you, if your organization is one that puts on special events, I encourage you to tune in or attend tonight's city council meeting. And even if you don't, just a plug for city council. And I've always kind of been that nerd. Even when I was back in Conroe, I attended city council meetings, even if I didn't have anything on the agenda. And much like here in Conroe, you could watch them on Suddenlink. You could watch them live broadcast on the website. There's really no excuse, but city council is where decisions are made for your community. And if you want to be a part of those discussions, you really need to, you get a front row seat right there. And So I'm a big proponent. If you've never been, if you have kids, both of my daughters attend city council meetings or at least watch it with me in the living room, and they're informed. They know what's happening and they know why things are, and they're learning the structure to it of how decisions are made and how they fit into that big picture. So I'll get off that soapbox. Um, we do have a job opening currently. It's been posted since mid-January or mid-December. We are looking to move forward with that. We're going to do interviews here in the next couple of weeks, and I'd like to have a final decision made by January. So we've retooled it. It was impossible to replace Joanna. So I retooled the job description. It's now an entry-level position. It is great for somebody new to the hospitality industry. You are a contracted employee of the city, so you get a great benefits package, and you're doing meaningful work. Aside from Stephen F. Austin, travel and tourism in Nacogdoches is one of the major economic drivers. And so what we do here may seem simple. We provide maps and information, and we're the forward-facing arm of the city to the visitors that come through. But there are some very significant um, contributions that we make to daily life for us that live here in Nacogdoches. So if you know of anybody, or if you yourself are interested in joining the Visit Nacogdoches team, I encourage you to go to the city's website and apply for the job. Like I said, it's only going to be open for a little while longer before we close it down. In other news, Ashley and I will be attending the Texas Association of Convention and Visitors Bureau, of which we are reigning the second best CVB in the great state of Texas, and we're proud of that. But it's their midwinter planning conference. So Ashley and I will be in attendance in Plano and be learning lots of good stuff to bring back home. We're focused this year on our wellness opportunities for visitors and residents alike here in Nacogdoches, as well as cultural components. And as always, reinforcing storytelling in Nacogdoches. So there'll be more to come in February on storytelling and some things that are happening there. But other than that, all is well. Mike Bay is behind the desk and in charge, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But I want to extend best wishes on a prosperous new year to all of us. If you have an event in the works, I encourage you to get your special events permit in early so that we can plan out our whole year. And with that, I just want to extend my heartfelt gratitude for all that you do in ways big and small to help make Nacogdoches a great place to visit.
Thank you, Sherry. Any questions of Sherry? And Sherry, if anybody's interested in that position, they should apply directly to you.
It's on the city's website. They do have a quick application system in place, but if you have any questions, then I would be the one that you contact. My email is Sherry, SHERRY, at visitnacogdoches.org. You can email me. My cell phone number is 936-444-9924 if you want to text me or give me a call. I kind of don't use my phone for talking, so text might be a good way to start in. But yeah.
Great. Well, thank you, Sherry, and thanks for all you folks are doing over there. I do want to call your attention on the chat section of this board. Sadly, Cassandra Stokes is not feeling very well, but the good news, you did give us an update, and I would call your attention and ask you to read that at your convenience. And also, Ashley has added more information about the job opening for the sales and services position at the CVB. So please take a look at that as well. Thank you again, Sherry, and have a great day. I'm pleased to see that we have with us Caroline Garner, the President and CEO of the Nacogdoches Area United Way. Good morning, Caroline.
Good morning. My first meeting as the president and CEO. So just in case you're missing the previous one, I'll get in uniform. Did I have the look? No. Anyway, nobody can have that look. That's pretty unique. So we all miss Gary Lee Ashcraft at United Way, but he is just a phone call away and still wants to stay involved in us. And I know he was hoping to be on this meeting this morning, but I'm very excited to be in this position and grateful for the supportive messages I've received from a lot of you and our board. Ready to start a fantastic new year, and the Daily Sentinel for promoting our transition. So just grateful. So thank you for the introduction, Wayne. And as far as United Way news, well, we wrapped up our campaign. Sort of. We still have another one that's going to be running with one of our workplace partners. We had a fantastic automobile giveaway. Our campaign car donated by Rex Perry was given away to a longtime donor, Dottie. I can't remember her last name, but she's worked at Cadence Bank for 20 plus years. I can't remember exactly, and been a United Way donor all that time. And then here came her lucky day to win that car at Rex Perry Autoplex. So everybody was so enthused for her. But just want to say thank you to all the donors. And if you anybody who's pledged to United Way next year, and if you haven't and you still want to do so, of course, we'll be glad to talk to you about what we do here at United Way. We support 18 partner agencies around Nacogdoches that help in all sorts of areas for health and human services needs. Two of those agencies have big events coming up. CASA of Deep East Texas, the community court appointed special advocates for children. I'm sure you guys have heard about it. They do a lot of work for these kids who end up having to go through the court system and find volunteers to be their advocates. There's always there's training for that if that's something of interest to you. But they have a really fun annual event, and theirs is coming up on Saturday, February 4th. They're calling it the Texi Gras. It's like a Mardi Gras theme. It's at the Fredonia Hotel at 6:30 on Saturday, February 4th. So you can find more information about that on their Facebook page. Then just 6 days later, Love Inc., Love in the Name of Christ, which works with a lot of the needs that homeless and the poor have, is having the annual Cherished Blessings event. That's a huge event out at the Expo Center where you can look at repurposed donated furniture that's put in a very decorative way. They have cakes. It gets to be almost an armed battle to get the best cake. Everybody runs on that cake room when the door opens to have that for your table. And there's all sorts of other ways to donate or participate there, or things for sale and whatnot. It's just always a really fun community event too. So the CASA event's on Saturday the 4th. The Love Inc. event is on Friday the 10th. Just look at those online and consider going and supporting those. And then as for United Way, our next big event, we finished the Turkey Trot and Parade in the fall. Very interested in the parade route discussion Sherry was mentioning. We are already talking about next year's parade, but really more importantly, Dudette Barbecue is coming up. We'll be hosting Dudette Barbecue on Saturday, April 29th. We had a fantastic meeting with a team of 13 volunteer leaders for Dudette Barbecue just last Friday. We are on it. Everybody is so enthused about it, and I'm excited that we have a new partnership from East Texas Community Health Services. We're partnering with them to help get out COVID information. They have been tasked with that continuing. We think, oh, well, COVID, it's 2022. Well, I'm sure you've heard the news. It's still very much out there. Hospitals are busy with that again. So there will be dissemination of COVID information, chance for COVID vaccinations, maybe some kind of a fun shot for a shot having to do with basketball. We're thinking, of course, R&K Distributors, the longest standing Dudette sponsor, is going to be out there with their beverages again. This is a Pilgrim sponsored event. But anyway, it's only $100 per team, plus you provide meat for judging and for samples. If you and your friends, you and your family, you and your workplace would like to have a Dudette Barbecue team, then get in on the action. We'll be happy to have you. It's a super fun event and way to mix with the public. That's all I've got for now.
Great. Thank you very much, Caroline. Lots going on, and we're pretty excited about that.
Yes, thank
Any other reports from any of our stakeholders on the call here, or announcements, business announcements? If not, I'll get a couple of things I just want to call to your attention. Tomorrow, the Chamber, in cooperation with the Chamber's Education Committee, will be hosting our first Gateway event, Gateway to the Future event, which will be at the campus of Stephen F. Austin University for the next 2.5 days. Uh, Approximately 800 eighth grade students from Nacogdoches County will be invited to the campus and will be exposed to all sorts of professional opportunities like electricians, plumbers, and several other trades as well. And it'll be a great introduction to them to the SFA campus and to all of the great vocational opportunities that they have ahead of them and the decisions professionally. So we're kind of looking forward to that event. Uh, I do want to let you know that we are knee deep in planning for our Chamber Days in Austin 2023, which will be February 14th to 16th. I'm extraordinarily excited to say that we're going to have the chairman of the University of Texas System Board of Regents address us on the 14th at 1 o'clock. Then we'll have the executive director of economic development and tourism for the state. We've invited her, and that's Adriana Cruz. And then finishing up for that afternoon will be Scott Braddock, who's a journalist and political analyst for the Quorum Report. So we've got a pretty powerful lineup. In addition to that, in the evening of the 15th, we will all journey over to the beautiful Austin Club for the legislative reception, which we'll host with our neighbors from Angelina and Lufkin Chamber of Commerce. Remember, this is a joint venture this year between the two chambers and the two communities, and we're darn excited about it. If you haven't made reservations, I'd respectfully suggest you need to do that as quickly as possible. And then I also want to acknowledge the fact that we're going to have a staff transition here. Barbara Hall has let us know of her intentions to resign. She's on the conference call right now, and Barbara next week will be assuming a new position at Texas A&M University, and we want to wish her well in that new capacity down there at College Station. Barbara, you got anything to say? Apparently not. Oh, there she is.
Here I am. I'm waiting. I had to figure out how to get it off of mute and everything. I just want to thank everybody for all the help you've given me and support that you've given me with my time at the chamber. And I'm going to miss you all and that. And I also want to say something else. Today is Mark's birthday, so everybody say happy birthday to Mark.
Happy birthday, Mark. So there you go. Well, thank you, Barbara, and thank you for your service to the chamber. And we've still got 4 more days to abuse you. So there you go. But having said that, any other announcements to anybody? If not, 2 weeks from today, we will have another conference call featuring Donna Finley, and Donna will be giving us a complete update on all of the events associated with Chamber Days in Austin. And maybe I'll entice our friends from Lufkin to join us as well. So having said that, have a wonderful week, and thank you for joining the Nacogdoches Chamber Stakeholder Conference call. This concludes the recording.